Good afternoon, and welcome back to the Garden of Grace Devotions. My name is Pastor Katie Christie, and I'm one of the pastors at Trinity Lutheran Church in Lilburn, Georgia. Fish and loaves. Fish and loaves. I have a dear friend who repeats these words to herself on a regular basis, particularly when she feels that the needs around her or her own needs are far greater than what she has to offer. Fish and loaves, she repeats to herself. Fish and loaves. Last Sunday, we read the passage from the Gospel of Matthew on the fish and the loaves, the feeding of the 5,000. There are so many elements of this story that can be captivating. However, the part that has continued to stick with me over the last few days is around the gifts of the disciples and the way they were able to serve. It was a challenging time, politically and emotionally. They'd just learned of the death of John the Baptist, Jesus' cousin, the previous day. It was the end of the day, and they were likely exhausted and afraid. Now, they were standing in front of a large, hungry crowd, and all that they had were 5 loaves and 2 fish. Of course, they figured there's only one thing to do in this situation: send the crowds away so that they can get their needs taken care of. However, moved by compassion, Jesus said no. He wasn't going to send them away. He instructed the disciples that they were going to be able to help the people. "Bring to me what you have," he said to the disciples. They brought him their 5 loaves and their 2 fish, a meager offering for so many people. Jesus blessed the gifts and hands them back to the disciples and instructs them to feed the crowd. Fish and loaves. Fish and loaves. Right now, it can be human nature to look at the pain and all that is going on in the world and to feel limited by our own capacity to make a difference, and to simply say, nope. Particularly when we are not able to employ some of the same methods of compassion that we are used to being able to offer. I don't know about you, but sometimes I find myself caught up in a cycle of frustration about this. Many of the normal ways that I offer support through hugs and handshakes and hospital visitation are simply not an option right now. Like the disciples, it's tempting to say something like, I have no idea what I'm going to do about all of that. They're just going to have to take care of themselves. Yet the example, the picture that Jesus offers us, is that of a person moved by compassion who responds to the needs of the people. There may be a lot of things that we can't do right now, but there is still so much that we can. I am deeply moved by simple acts of compassion when I hear about them, such as people offering to be pen pals with nursing home residents, folks reaching out to those in need of food or shelter, a neighbor taking the time to listen to an overwhelmed parent. So many of these ideas come about when people take the time to listen to the needs of others and open themselves to offering support. If you take a moment to think and pray about it, is there someone that you can think of that you might be able to reach out to today? You may not have a magic wand that can take away their burdens, yet sometimes a listening ear can go a long way. It's the first step in trying to figure out how to offer support. There are so many different ways that people could use a hand right now. There are so many different ways that people could use a hand right now. Needs that I'm not even aware of. But if we start by listening, it can help us to figure out how we might be able to be helpful. There's a bad joke about a preacher who stood up at the beginning of a stewardship drive and said something like, "The good news is we have all of the finances that we need to remodel the building. The bad news is it's currently in all of your wallets." I suppose that's what I'm offering to you today. Through the gifts that God has given to each one of us, we have what we need to support and encourage one another during this time. Fish and loaves. Fish and loaves. God has given us the gifts that we need to serve one another. May God also give us the courage to reach out and to serve. Amen.